Hi everybody, it's me. One last quick check-in here, mostly to sort of reiterate some stuff that I'd said at the start of our last class on Tuesday, and also just to mention a couple of things that are sort of happening in our course here as we wrap things up. So again, thanks for a great workshop. It's always interesting to meet people who are teaching hybrids or teaching online or are interested in moving in that direction from different disciplines across the campus, different sort of situations. The thing that I like most about it is, in fact, that diversity. And I think our group in particular was a great example of how we end up sort of learning mostly from each other through that process of conversation and thinking about some of the challenges of teaching in this mode and some of the opportunities to be successful. And I almost always learn, as much from the group as I ever pretend to be sort of teaching anybody. In many ways, like I said in class, what you learn from the workshop isn't sort of 5 bullet points of how to be a hybrid course designer or teacher, but you simply learn from the experience of being in the class and maybe seeing some things in our course that I've set up that I think are fairly effective as far as, again, transparent organization and ease of navigation and finding things. And so if you reflect back on our workshop, it's sort of an interesting journey that we take from asking some really sort of big questions, whether it's about like time management or our experience of doing things online, and they sort of may seem a little disconnected from like, how do I teach a hybrid course? But what I think we find by the time we get to that discussion, which is really where we end with doing our project walkthroughs, is that all of those big kinds of questions really do factor into the practicalities of teaching in the hybrid mode. So I sort of like going from those very big, maybe disconnected questions to more of the practical stuff. I think if we worked in the other direction, it really wouldn't work at all. We would get very mired in the what does this button do, and all of the kind of intricacies of each person's individual course. So I really like the kind of overall arc of the workshop. And again, if you reflect back on it, we really covered like a lot of territory in our 8 weeks together. So the couple of final thoughts I wanted to leave you with that I don't think I really mentioned in class is that I feel like the barrier to entry for a lot of people in terms of whether it's teaching online or teaching in the blended format is the fundamental fear of making mistakes. But like, I'm living proof that you don't get it right the first time or every time. Just like teaching, it's funny that we hold ourselves to a different standard when we're in a so-called alternative delivery mode, whereas in the face-to-face format, I don't think we would ever start a term on day one thinking, I'm going to do everything perfectly. Every single class period is going to go exactly like I planned it. And in fact, I do have absolutely everything scripted out from minute number 1 until the very last minute of the term. I don't think we ever would enter into the face-to-face mode like that. And yet we often, if you think about it, we feel sort of obliged in a blended format or online to have our course entirely built with absolutely everything in place, everything scripted out, and this notion that if anything goes wrong, the whole thing's just sort of going to come apart at the seams. So why we feel that way when maybe it's the technology part, I'm not quite sure. But I think this fear of making mistakes and this sense that we have to have it all mapped out and perfectly planned on day one is, again, it's sort of overwhelming. It's too intimidating. So that's what I think keeps a lot of people from teaching in a format that is really, from my teaching perspective, is great. That corny saying, it combines the best of both worlds. It's easy to say, sometimes maybe too easy to say, as if just mashing things together and ta-da, it's done. But it really does open up so many opportunities for things you can do with a class, having them move between that face-to-face and online environment. And ultimately, I think it's a benefit for students as well, whether it's just that basic issue of flexibility. They start to get really savvy about scheduling days that they're on campus versus not on campus, so they're managing other life responsibilities, not having to drive and park, really basic stuff like that. But I think it also has some fundamental pedagogical benefits as well. And again, these vary, I think, maybe across discipline, but there's still some commonality in terms of maintaining or retaining that sort of dynamic face-to-face presence space, but also moving in a significant way online so that the online piece isn't just like the sort of homework model that we talked about the other day, but has students doing more kind of reflective things or certainly collaborations possible, but they're working in an environment where they're sort of learning skills just by being online, that are typically called the 21st century workplace skills, not just the critical and creative thinking that we're all pretty familiar with, but collaborating digitally, collaborating asynchronously, producing more than just sort of standard typewritten text documents, but working in that sort of multimodal format. So lots of practical benefits, but also some deeper pedagogical benefits as well. Okay, so again, hopefully, if nothing else, the workshop has inspired you to continue maybe thinking about working towards teaching in the hybrid format. And again, without that sense that you have to be the super tech wizard or have everything mastered or know every tech gadget under the sun. We've certainly seen how, a few people know about this stuff and a few people know about this stuff, and it's really in that collaborative communication that you start to learn more things. You don't have it all yourself, really. Okay, so we finish up then in Unit 8. I'm just in our course right here. So Unit 8 is set up as that discussion board again, where you are, providing some feedback to your classmates or your workshop mates. And I've set it up properly this time. I sort of dropped the ball. Perfect example of not getting it quite right. In Unit 7, in Unit 8, I've set up the threads for the people who presented, so the discussion board actually matches the description in the unit itself. And then you'll see that there's a little final feedback piece. Again, I'm happy to get your feedback, but this is another one of those pieces of the class where you just sort of see what it might look like and is sort of modeling pretty effective practice of you as the teacher actively providing opportunities for your students to give you more or less anonymous and ungraded feedback. I find this mechanism much more useful than the generic questionnaire that we have to use, sort of the contractual questionnaire. Whether you do it like as a form at the start of our course, which is one thing that we did. I did a midterm thing, so again, you can sort of see what that looked like, and then we have this final one as well. My meeting with my associate dean is coming up in a week or two, and I'll be pulling from the various little feedback things that I've done across my courses to find some really good comments about the course or the teaching, so you can really use them not just to make your courses better, your teaching better, but sort of professionally as well. They're very useful. And I think that's about it. So you'll get your final achievement badge, which is the system that we used in Blackboard here. The first time that I've used badges throughout the course, so hopefully that was interesting. Again, I'd be interested to hear from you what that experience was like, and if you think it would be worthwhile doing in a course. And again, my sense is that to just have the one badge at the end maybe wouldn't be enough. There'd be no sort of lead up to it. So if you did it, you'd almost have to go like kind of all in. So that's within Blackboard. And then once we're all finished up, I will also email you, or you'll be alerted to the fact that you're getting a slightly more official looking badge maybe. That again, some people it's just sort of fun, but you may find it useful if you have an e-portfolio. If you have a LinkedIn account, you can use it there. Especially people who are teaching cross institutions, it's nice to bring all this stuff together so it's not scattered all over the place. And like I'd mentioned, I think in class, we will hopefully have access to faculty web pages again that we can actually manipulate, not just this static thing where you email somebody some text and they put it on the web for you. But again, that would be a really great place to showcase professional achievement. And I think completing this workshop is one. So hopefully you had a good time. Hopefully you are as interested as you ever were in teaching a hybrid course. I'm always here if you want to shoot me an email or have further questions. For those of you whose project I didn't get to see, I would love to take a look, just because I learn as much, every time I see a new way of doing things. So if you're interested in that, by all means, be in touch. And thanks again for a great workshop. And this is the last video from me that you'll have to watch as part of it.